Hello everyone, welcome to Train Me Buddy. This is Siddharth. In the last videos we had gone through how to write SQL queries which are being operated on a single table. So when you have to combine data from multiple tables in a database, then you need to use SQL join statement. So in today's video I'll take you through different kind of joins such as inner join, left join, right join, full join, cross join and self join. Also, I'll make you understand at what scenario you'll be using which kind of join. So let's get started. In this tutorial, we'll go through what is SQL alias and when to use SQL alias, then different types of SQL joins, then we'll understand when to use what kind of joins like inner join or left, right or full outer joins. Then we'll be learning how to use different types of joins together in a query. So what is SQL alias? SQL alias is used to give a temporary name or nickname to a table or a column in a SQL query. Alias is mostly used to make column names more readable. SQL alias is very useful in SQL join statement to refer to the columns from different tables. One thing to remember that SQL alias will only exist for the duration of that query execution, but it will not be physically present in a database table. An alias is created with the keyword as. So let's start with using as statement to create SQL alias. Let me use the MyStoreDB which we have created during the first part of this tutorial. So I'll be using the customer table. So let me select some data from customer table. So let me have select, I'll write from customer and let me select customer first name, last name and email. And let me execute and we can see here that we have the first name, last name and email. So let's say I want to get the first name and last name concatenated and I'll be having a column name as customer name. So let's have first name plus I'll put a space in between first name and last name. So I'll put a space here within the two single quotes, then plus last name. So here I am concatenating the first name using a plus, then I'm adding a space in between plus the last name. So let me execute this query. As you see here, the customer first name and last name is concatenated with comma separated, but by default, the column name is coming as no column name. So for this, we need to use alias. So let me have the alias as, so let me say customer name and let me execute this query. Here you see that we have the column name named as customer name for the concatenated first name and last name value from customer table. And we can use alias for multiple columns in a select query. For example, I want to have this email as email ID. So I can have the email ID as the alias name. So as I said, you should be remembering that the alias name is only applicable for the execution of the query. So if you want to use the alias for the where clause, then that will not be applicable or that will not work. So if you want to refer the customer table with an alias, then you can have as, then alias name. So you can have the alias name as A here. So this will be giving the alias name to customer tables. So this will be very useful when you are using alias name for the tables in a join statement. So before we understand what is SQL join, let's understand why we need SQL join. So in relational database, we work on multiple tables related to different types of data. For example, in a retail database, we will have multiple tables like sales table having sales transaction, customer table having customer information, or employee table having the employee information of the store, or you have a product table which is holding all the product information in your store. So SQL join statement is used to combine rows from multiple tables based on a common or related columns between them. Let's say we have a sales table which is holding the invoice ID, customer ID, and sales date about a sales transaction. And we have a customer table which is holding the customer ID, first name, last name, phone, and email of the customer. So let's say we want to get the data from both sales and customer table to get the sales transaction detail with the customer name and phone. For that, we need to use join statement to combine the data to get the result in the way that we'll be getting the invoice ID, sales date, first name, and phone number. So in SQL, we have different types of joins, such as inner join, left join, right join, full join, self join, and cross join. So what is inner join all about? Inner join statement returns record having matching values in both the tables based on the joining condition. As you see in the Venn diagram, we have two tables, table 1 and table 2. And when we are using inner join, it will be getting the common data from table 1 and table 2, which is highlighted as green in this Venn diagram. So syntax for inner join is select, then column names from the joining tables from table 1, inner join table 2 on. We need to have the column name from table 1 as table 1 dot column name and table 2 dot column name. So here we need to have the matching column names in the on criteria. So based on the common values from the joining condition or on criteria, it will be returning the data from both the tables. So before we start with writing the inner join query, so let me get the data and check what data we have in two tables. So I'll be selecting sales table and customer table. So let me drag and drop. And here I can have select star from. So let me copy this for the customer as well. So let's see the data together, and I'll be executing both the query. And here you see that the sales table is having 5 records with the sales transaction, and customer table is having 5 records as the customer information, and common columns between these two is the customer ID. So which can be used for our joining condition. So let's have the inner join query as select from. Let me go with select from first so that easily I can pick up the columns from the tables. So let me have sales and copy from here. And I'll put an alias name for sales table as, let's say, S, inner join customer. Let me have the alias as C. Then I need to give the joining condition on S dot customer ID, which is sales dot customer ID equal to C dot customer ID. So this is the joining condition between the sales and customer table. So let's add some column names here. So let me have S dot invoice ID. Then let me have S dot customer ID. Then I'll be getting the customer name, which is available in the customer table. So let me have C dot first name, then C dot last name, C dot phone. So it will be getting the invoice ID, customer ID, first name, last name, and phone. So let me execute this query. And here we see that we have only 3 records which are common between the sales and customer table by having the customer ID as common between them. So we have the customer ID 1, 4, and 5 common between them. So if you see the data here together again, then we have 1 available in both sales and customer table, then 4 available in both customer and sales table. Then we have customer ID 5 common between these two tables. So the join statement will be getting the common records between these sales and customer table. So instead of first name and last name, I can have the two columns concatenated with plus, and let me have a space plus last name, and I can give an alias as customer name and execute. So this will be getting us the invoice ID, customer ID, and the concatenated first name and last name value as customer name, and the phone number of the customer. What is left join? So left join returns all the records from the table on the left side of the join condition and the matching records from the right side of the joining condition. In the left join, for the records for which there is no matching rows on the right side of the joining condition, it will return null. So as you see in this Venn diagram, we will be getting all the rows from table 1 and only the common rows from table 1 and 2. And for the values from the table 2, which is not common with the table 1, we will be seeing as null value. So syntax for left join is you need to have the select, then column names from both table 1 and 2 from table 1, and we'll be using the left outer join keyword. So outer being the optional keyword. So you can also use left join instead of left outer join. Then table 2. Then you need to give the joining condition using on. Then we need to give the table 1 dot the matching column equal to table 2 dot matching column. So let's understand using the query. So let's have the query for the left join as select from sales table as S, then left join customer as C. Then I need to give the on condition on S dot customer ID equal to C dot customer ID. So let's get the columns from these two tables. So S dot, let's have invoice ID, then S dot customer ID. Then from the customer table, let's have first name. Let me concatenate this with last name, C dot last names, and let's have C dot customer phone. And let me have this as customer name. And here you can see that it is getting all the records from the left table, which is sales table, but only the matching records from the right table, which is the customer table. So here we are getting the customer name and phone number, which are common between these two tables, and remaining rows we are getting null value. Right join is just opposite of the left join. It will be returning all the records from the table on the right side of the join and only the matching records from the table on the left side of the join. For the records for which we don't have any matching row on the left table, then it will be returning null values. So as you see in this Venn diagram, we have table 1 and table 2, and as highlighted in green, it will be returning all the rows from table 2, but only the matching rows from the table 1. And the records which are not matching with table 2 will be written as null value. Syntax for right join is to select the columns from both the table 1 and 2, then from table 1, then right join, then table 2, or right outer join, table 2, on. Then we need to specify the matching column name as table 1 dot matching column equal to table 2 dot matching column. So let's learn with the query. So for the right outer join, let me have the query as select. First, let me have from, and I'll have sales as S. Then let me have right join customer as C. Then let me give the joining condition on S dot customer ID equal to C dot customer ID. So let me have the columns from these tables as S dot invoice ID, then S dot customer ID. Then let me have C dot customer first name, C dot customer last name, and let me have the phone number from customer table. And let me execute this query. So as you see here, the customer ID 145 are common between the sales and customer table. So it is getting the data for these. For the non-matching customer ID, it is returning null from the sales table. To understand a bit more, we can have the customer ID as well from the customer table. So let me have C dot customer ID. So I can have the alias as C underscore. Let me have the customer ID just to differentiate. So execute. And as you see here, we are getting all the customer ID from the customer table, which is on the right side of the join, and only those customer ID related records which are matching with the customer table, which is on the right side of the joining condition. So what is full join? Full join returns all the records when there is matching records in left or right table, and the result set contains all the records from both the tables. For the records for which there is no match, it will return null values from both left or right table. So as you see in the Venn diagram, we have table 1 and table 2. So we are going to get all the records from table 1 and table 2 as highlighted in green in this Venn diagram. So if there is no matching record in the table 1, then it will be getting null value from there. And if there is no matching record from table 2, then it will be getting null values from table 2. So syntax for full join is select, then you can select the columns from both the tables, then from table 1, then you need to specify the full outer join or full join table 2 on, then we need to give the matching criteria, that is table 1 dot the matching column equal to table 2 dot matching column. So please remember, for having more than one matching criteria, we can specify the matching criteria using n condition. Let me have the full join as select from sales table as S, full join customer table as C on S dot customer ID equal to C dot customer ID, and let me have the column name as S dot invoice ID, S dot customer ID, then let's say then C dot customer ID, just to see the customer ID from both the tables to understand the join. So let me name it as C underscore customer ID. Then let's have C dot first name, comma C dot last name, and let's have the customer phone number as C dot phone, and let me execute this query. And as you see here, so we have 7 records written from both the tables. So out of that, 3 are matching between 2 tables, and these 2 records are coming from the sales table, having the customer information null from the customer table. And we have 2 records from the sales table, which is not available based on the customer ID in the customer table. Self-join is similar to any other join we have learned so far, but the difference is it will be joining a table with itself. So as you see in this Venn diagram, table 1 will be joined with table 1 itself. So syntax for self-join is select, then columns from table 1 as A, comma, table 1 as B, where you need to specify the common columns between these table A and B, which is given as an alias for the table 1 itself. So let's learn with the query. So for this self join, let me use another table called employee. So let me see the data from this table. Execute. So here we have this information from the employee table, and we have the employee ID, and there is a manager ID associated with it. And as the manager is also an employee of the store, these IDs are also the employee ID. So let's use the self join to get the manager first name and last name for the employee. So let me have the query as select. Let me have from first employee. Let me take this as A. Then let me have comma employee as B. So here I need to specify where. So let me see the output again. So we need to have the manager ID of the table A, which is first part of the join, A dot manager ID equal to, then I need to join the employee ID of the table B. So let me have B dot employee ID. So which is the joining criteria for the self join. Let me have the column name as a dot employee ID. Then let me have a dot first name, and let me concatenate this with the last name with a space. Then I'll put a dot last name. Let me have this as employee name, comma, let's say I am having b dot first name plus, so this will be the manager name. So let me execute this query. And here you see that we are getting the employee information with the manager name using the self join. To understand more, let me have also the manager ID in the select statement. So as you see here, the employee with employee ID 2 is reporting to the manager with the manager ID 1. So we are getting the information for that specific employee having the employee ID as 1. So please remember, this is also one of the important interview questions. So if you use the self join in this way, you can get the hierarchy of employee and manager information. What is cross join? Cross join returns the Cartesian product of the records from both the tables. So it combines each record from the first table with each record from the second table. So as you see in this Venn diagram, so we have two tables having 3 records each. And if we are doing the cross join, each record will be getting 3 records from both sides. So as you see here, 1 from the table 1 will be associated with the 3 records from table 2 and vice versa. Similarly, 2 will be associated with the 3 records from both sides of the join. Similarly, we have 3 associated with the 3 records, and the syntax for the cross join is you need to select the columns from table 1, cross join table 2. So here you don't need to specify a joining criteria. So let's have the cross join as select from, let's have sales as S, cross join customer as C, and let me select some columns from here. So S dot invoice ID, then S dot customer ID, comma C dot customer first name, and let me execute this query. And as you see here, it is getting 25 rows because both the tables are having 5 records each, and it multiplied and getting 25 records. So here we can use a where condition which will be getting us the same result as inner join. So let's have where S dot customer ID equal to C dot customer ID, and let me execute this query. And as you see here, it is getting only 3 matching records from both the tables. So this is how we can write the cross join. So while working on a real-time project, most of the time we need to know what kind of join we need to use in our query. So I have put down here to understand when to use inner join or left, right, or full outer join in our query. So basically, we use an inner join when you want only the results that appear in both the tables and you need only the matching output. For example, if you have a requirement in your project to create a report to get only customer information who has purchased from the store, or there is a sales transaction, then you need to use inner join between sales and customer table to get required result set. Use an left outer join when you want to have the result from left table but right table has the relevant data for some of the records from the left table. For example, if you have a requirement in your project to create a report to get sales transaction with optional customer information as available, then you need to use left outer join between sales and customer table to get the required result set. Use an right outer join when you want all the results from right table, but left table has relevant data of some of the records from right table. For example, if you have a requirement in your project to get a report which will be getting the customer information, and optionally if they have a transaction, then you need to use the right outer join between sales and customer table to get the required result set. Use full outer join when you want the result from both the data sets or table. For example, if you have a requirement in your project to create a report to get customer information irrespective of having a sales transaction, then you need to use the full join between sales and customer table to get the required result set. Now, let's see how to use different types of joins together in a query. So for this, I'll be using more than 3 tables. So let me pick up the tables like sales table, which will be holding the sales header. Then let me take the sales detail, which will be holding the detail about the sales transaction. Then let me pick up the table customer. Then let me pick up the product. So before we write the join query, let's understand what data we have in these tables. So let me write a select query. So let's see what is there in sales table. So as you see here, the sales table is holding the header level information. So as you see here, it is having one record for each invoice. However, the sales detail will be holding multiple record for one invoice. So for example, as part of one invoice, you have purchased multiple products. So for that, we'll be having multiple records. So let's see the customer table. So customer table is holding the customer information. Similarly, product table is holding the product information. So let me write the join query starting with the sales tables. So let's have select from. So let me take the sales table as S. I'll put inner join. So let's say my criteria is I'll be only getting the sales transaction from sales table for which there is a detail record in the sales detail table. So for that, I'll be using inner join. So let's have inner join sales detail. So let me put the alias as SD for sales detail, and I'll be joining with the condition on s dot invoice ID, which is common between the sales and sales detail. So s dot invoice ID equal to sd dot invoice ID. And let me put a star here and execute. So as you see here, I'm getting all the columns from both the tables. So we can keep the selected columns from these two tables. So let me put the column names as required for my output. So let's have the s.invoice ID, which I'll be getting from the sales table. Then let's have s.customer ID. Then I'll get the sales date, which is available in the sales table. So it will be s.sales date. Then let me get the product ID and sales amount, which is available in the sales detail table. So let's have comma sd dot product ID. Then I'll have sd dot sales amount. Also before this product ID, let me get the sd dot line ID, which represents each item I have purchased as part of the sales transaction. Let me execute this query, and you see that we have the selected columns coming from the sales and sales detail tables. So here you see that we have the invoice ID, customer ID, sales date coming from sales table, and line ID, product ID, and sales amount coming from the sales detail table. However, end user may not understand what is the customer ID, but it will be better understood with a customer name. So how to get that information from customer table? So we have the requirement to get the customer name, which is not mandatory for all the sales record. Then we can use the left join. So let me have left join here. So I'll be joining with the customer table, and let me put the alias as C, and I'll be joining with the joining condition with on C dot customer ID equal to S dot customer ID, because our sales table is having the customer ID column. So let's execute this query. So this works. However, I need to add the customer name from customer table. So let me add next to the customer ID column here. So we can put anywhere in the select query. So let's have c dot customer first name. So if you want to have the customer first name and last name concatenated, we can have plus, and let me put a space, plus customer last name as customer name. Now let me execute this query. And as you see here, that customer name is shown next to the customer ID. However, it is only showing the customer information matching with the customer ID of the sales table. Similarly, if we have the requirement to get the product name from product table, instead of having the product ID here, then I need to join with the product table. So let's say this is also not mandatory to get the product information. So in that case, let me have left join, and let me take product as a table, and we have as, then let me put the alias name as p on. So I need to put the joining condition. So p dot product ID equal to sd dot product ID, because product ID is available in the sales detail table. And let me have the product name from product table. So I will be having p dot product name from the product table. So let me execute this query, and here we see that we have the product name. So as we are taking the customer name and product name from the customer and product table respectively, we can avoid getting the result for customer ID. So I can comment this with 2 dash for the customer ID selection. Similarly, I can comment the product ID. And now I can execute this, and the customer ID and product ID are removed from the result set. So this is how you can use multiple join queries together in a single SQL query. So I have put all the queries used in this video at the link provided in the description. So you can download that from the link and have a practice. Thanks for watching this video. Hope this tutorial is useful for you. Please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe the channel Train Me Buddy and hit on the bell icon so that you'll be notified about the upcoming new videos. If you have any doubts or suggestions, please feel free to put it on the comment. Thank you.